Welcome to the Smart Connector, the podcast that helps entrepreneurs be the leader their ideal people love. Build your influence, wealth and success, attract others for all the right reasons, and become a smart connector, the architect of your amazing business and life. I first came across Lucky Singh on LinkedIn, and he has the most entertaining profile I think I've ever seen. He's a Mayfair property guy, he's also an influencer and a very, very interesting character and personality, and somebody who really everybody should know because he's one of the most well-networked people that I think I've ever met. So enjoy this telephone interview between us. Lack is a property entrepreneur, international networker, facilitator and coach. He manages business development for one of the largest Mayfair property companies, Rescue My Properties, which deals with property consultancy and solutions including tax, quick funding, property acquisition and asset management. He's performed over 5,000 asset acquisitions and sales for clients both in the UK and internationally, ranging from 100,000 to several million in the last 13 years. He also runs the Mayfair Property Members Club, which is a new concept event being launched in 2020 with the objective of helping facilitate major business and property deals. So welcome, Lucky.
Glad to be on your show, The Smart Connector.
Great to have you here. I just wanted to talk through a little bit more about you because we've talked about what you do, but you have some experience of property pain as well as success, don't you? Which you've come through today with huge wisdom and expertise to bring to others experiencing this too.
Yes, I have had my fair share of pain, I would say, which I think is probably necessary prerequisite in any business or anything that you're doing in property these days, because if you haven't felt the pain, then you're not always going to get the gain. So it sounds like some sort of slogan, doesn't it, really? In terms of pain, basically, the pain is that I've been doing property for 30 years. In that time, I've built up a portfolio of about 100 properties. Have actually had a major catastrophe in the past where I've lost my 100 properties, lost my house, and went through very difficult personal circumstances in terms of a divorce. So all those things, they make you sharper, brighter, more efficient, more planned in what you're doing. They also tell you a lot more about business and how business works. So there's a lot of important lessons that I've learned from that process, and I'm happy to share them.
Absolutely, and we'll look forward to talking about those later. Now, the other thing, Lucky, is that you're a Sikh, aren't you? And very proud of your history and heritage. Growing up in the UK, you absorbed other cultural influences too, and you were a Bhangra jazz and hip-hop dancer, weren't you, in your youth? So tell us about that.
Well, I wouldn't say in my youth. I can still do all my moves now.
Okay.
I can still get the groove on, so to speak.
Yeah, okay.
My son and I actually performed a couple of years back in front of about 100 people.
That's really fantastic.
Which is more of a hip-hop act. Yeah, I've always enjoyed a lot of Latin dancing, Bhangra, hip-hop and break dances. And to be honest, I haven't done any break dancing for about a year because of injuries, because I have actually had some genuine injuries. But I'm pretty confident I can still burn out the dance floor.
It's pretty physically strenuous, isn't it?
Definitely so. I think I'm beginning to sort of feel it a bit more now. So I've got to do a bit more limbering up before I sort of jump straight into doing some sort of acrobatic moves on the dance floor.
Oh, that's brilliant. Okay, so let's get into it. Lucky, tell us more about your story and your roller coaster ride in property.
Well, I've been doing property for 30 years. I wanted to sort of use the Rich Dad quadrant, which is about being an employee, being a consultant, being somebody who's a technical expert, and then being a business owner. Then I can safely say, if anybody who doesn't know what the Rich Dad quadrant is, it's sort of like a psychology of mind in terms of the type of employment or work you do, and really how it affects how you work and how you manage your work or your business or whatever you're doing. So quickly to go into that, I was a 9-to-5er for many years,
Yeah.
working in retail for my first job at Gibbs and Hawkes in Savile Row. Then I worked as a call center manager at AT&T NCR. Then I moved into working for Deloitte as the head of their global web presence on the internet. So I managed to get them to change all their global websites. So I've sort of worked from an employee to, let's just say, a consultant of sorts. Then I've become a contractor and consultant advising government. So I worked for Patricia Hewitt for about a year as a marketing consultant, restructuring the 200 grant products into 10. And I had a very successful reference from them saying that they're really pleased with the work that I've done. And then I've had various other roles in project management, digital marketing, where I also worked for Lord Putnam in Parliament, redesigning a parliamentary website as a contractor. And alongside that, I built a property portfolio of about 100 properties. And then the big crash at the same time as Northern Rock, I had some major issues. I was made bankrupt, and I managed to just about survive that. And the people that came to save me, company wasn't called Rescue My Properties, but we decided to call it Rescue My Properties. And we decided to turn the tables and poacher, become gamekeeper type situation where we decided to go and help other people who may have similar problems. So our philosophy at, say, Mayfair Property Members Club or Rescue My Properties is to go and help people and also help them to make money. That's the general ethos. There's one other really exciting point about what we do. 9 out of 10 times, a lot of the problems that we face in business are not down to the business itself. It's the mindset of the person running the business.
Yeah.
So if you're not planned, if you're not organized, if you're not specific, or you have personality issues around maybe anxiety or psychological issues around depression, all these things may be small to you, but they could be the fundamental difference between success and failure in business.
Yes, and that's something that I'd love to get onto in more detail. Just to go back to your property pain, for some of our younger listeners, they might not realise, particularly if they're listening abroad, that there was a terrible property crash here in the UK that came at the tail end of 2007 and, of course, 2008. We haven't seen anything like that since. But it was a terrible time for many property investors, and I know many people that lost their portfolios at that time. So what was the major lesson that you learned from that experience, Lucky, that you'd like to pass on to our listeners about property?
Well, I think the major lesson is that you've got to be very prepared for the worst case scenario in anything that you do.
Yes.
And then be working backwards from that and not really take anything for granted.
Yes.
And I think even now in this climate, I speak to a lot of people and they're in denial about what's really happening in business or in property. And I think it's the lack of awareness, knowledge and research about what's actually happening as opposed to what you want to believe. So what's real, what's not real is where there's a problem.
Yeah.
So if you read the wrong news information or the wrong newspapers, or you're hanging out with the wrong people that are not business-minded, you may find that you may be deluding yourself in your success.
Yeah.
And I think that inability to be very clear about how to manage your business or manage it at a risk is critical to the success of any business, I would say, not just property.
Absolutely. It's risk, isn't it? And I think for those of us who are more experienced in property, we realise that it is about risk management, isn't it, fundamentally? That you can't be starry-eyed about property and go into it naively, can you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely correct. I think there was in the early, let's say 2000, there was a lot of easy access to money, and it was given to large majority of the population that their psychology around money was more 9 to 5 than business. Although, they may know something about business, they probably didn't know quite enough. Yes. So you had the sort of syndrome of something called the accidental landlord at the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has now come to an end because the government has put such strong taxes and measures in to weed out anybody that's getting into property, not only from taxes but also from licensing, HMOs, to structuring things in a particular way. So it makes it very difficult for anybody who's non-experienced in business to come in and to be making money from day one.
Yes.
So I think the barriers to entry are a lot higher.
Yes.
To be able to access easy money as you could do in that time.
Do you think that's a good thing? Because some landlords are very upset about that and about all these changes and all the taxation and legal restrictions that are put on them now.
To put it into sort of emotional or personal terms would be wrong, because is it a good thing or a bad thing? I think whichever way position you're sitting in, you're going to be thinking it's good or bad. So
Yeah.
if you're the tax man, then you're going to be thinking it's a good thing. Yeah? if you're a landlord with 500 properties, then at this time a lot of them are tearing their hair out, because the whole model that they based their business plan on 15 or 20 years ago, plus minus, is no longer relevant. So they are left in the lurch somewhat.
Yeah. So that leads us neatly into talking about Rescue My Properties. So I understand it provides multifaceted solutions.
That's correct. Basically, we are like a one-stop shop. Rescue My Properties is one of the brands that specializes in dealing with property portfolios.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, just take a couple of scenarios. If somebody's got a portfolio of, say, about 40 properties, at least 5 or 10 key things they need to be thinking about, from tax to raising finance to growing their portfolio to managing it or reducing its costs, to manage their credit better or their facility better, or get term funding or get bridge funding. So we are a solution provider. We don't buy any assets.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a vested interest in anybody's portfolio in terms of wanting anything from them. A lot of people come to us because they've got a specialist issue they need some help on. Like I said, tax, it could be bridging funding. Normally we tend to get into people's very technical problems.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you do behind the scenes which we wouldn't make public because they are highly specialist.
Yeah.
But we do work with an incredible power team. So some of the people in the power team, they're some of the top tax solution providers internationally, and they're also the best accountants, the best asset managers, best hedge fund managers. So the lucky thing about working in Mayfair and also working in property or in digital for about the last 30 years means that we've got access to an incredible resource. 80 to 90% of our resources are in-house, so we've got a team of about 20 people now.
Yeah.
We then work with a lot of specialist advisors, which I wouldn't really talk so openly about because we offer so many specialist services to mid to high net people, including ultra high net, that they like to be quite low key.
I understand.
So we work with startup, mid tier, high net, and then ultra high net. It's never really a dull moment because I've got to deal with one moment helping somebody to find £50,000 for a bridge.
Yes.
And the other moment, it may be an infrastructure project in like in an African country or South America. So it could be 3 meetings like that in one day. And
amazing. Never a dull moment.
Exactly. So there's always so much more to learn and do every day. So I say to people, I have a funny joke which I'd like to share with you.
Yeah.
I only made this up about a week ago, actually.
Okay.
People say to me, what are you doing this weekend? Are you working? Are you on a holiday or taking a bit of a holiday? I say to them, work is holiday.
Yes.
And holiday is work.
Yeah.
So I said, I'm going to be having a holiday on the weekend. That confuses everybody because does that mean that I'm actually working or I'm having a holiday because I mean a holiday is work?
Yeah.
I leave that in the air at the moment for everybody to think about, but I'm actually having a holiday with you now.
Yeah. Because it's fun, isn't it? I mean, that is the thing that people don't often talk about, but there's an incredible energy and excitement around property, isn't there? When you get it right. It can be a roller coaster ride, it can be There can be a lot of property pain if you get it wrong, and it can be terrible pain. But when you're getting it right, it's very, very exciting. And when you're helping people get it right, that must be very rewarding.
Maybe a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't really treat my work as something I have to do, something I love doing.
Mm-hmm.
So my personal ethos is that I love actually helping people and solving their problems. So
Yes.
I don't really like to do anything that's boring, dull, and dry, and I can make money from it because I have to be passionate about it. I don't know, let's just say they've got a complicated problem which they can't find a way out of. It's almost like doing the crossword, but you're doing it in real life.
Yes.
You're actually doing a real crossword with real people, with real business, with
Yes.
real money. I've saved a client about £14 million recently on a very, very, very complex deal, which is time specific.
Yes.
Within 3 days.
Amazing.
Now, the type of satisfaction you get from that is pretty amazing.
It really is. It really is. And I hope they said thank you.
Well, that's a different matter. That's another story.
Okay.
Not many people that you save money are always thankful. They always think that it was nothing because they try not to actually pay anything for it. But,
oh, yes.
That's actually quite.
Welcome to the world of property.
That's another story, actually.
Yep, exactly. Rescue My Properties, is it just about property, or do you also help business owners?
Well, Rescue My Property is multifaceted, like I said.
Yeah.
So what happens is we've had situations where clients have got 7 businesses, but they've also got assets. They've also got international business, and we've gone in and been able to structure solutions for all 3 areas.
Yeah.
So although our strength is property, we can turn our expertise to pretty much any type of business. And if we can't, we'd have teams of people within my, let's just say, internal consultancy base where we would be able to bring in the right parties. So we prefer not to sort of get too diluted away from property, to be honest, but we like dealing with people with complex portfolio scenarios from end of term, HMRC issue, bridge funding, term funding, debt restructuring, moving into limited company, restructuring from a sort of complex tax scenario. So anything that requires a little bit of nous or wherewithal, we'll be able to bring to the table, and it will be done behind closed doors.
Okay, great. So let's go back to something you mentioned earlier about the mindset of success. So as a result of dealing with sometimes distressed property owners as well as super successful investors who are really smashing it in property, what have you learned? What conclusions have you come to about mindset?
That's a very good question. Got about 20 answers reading through my head about that question. To break it down, I'll break it down into 2 or 3 simple things. I mean, what's helpful for you to know is that I'm also an NLP certified practitioner.
Yeah.
Not that I actually do much with it. It's just something I did many years ago. So having awareness of yourself in terms of how your mind, body, and spirit work together allows you to work at your best. Now, if you're not in tune with that, you're very heady, or you're overly emotional, or your physicality determines how you handle pain. For example, if you're tired all the time, then you won't complete certain deals, or you won't do certain things that you need to get done. So I think having that synchronicity of mind, body, and soul is one part of your mindset. If you're very heady, you may need to become more grounded, more relaxed, and maybe tap into your emotions. If you're very emotional, you may actually want to become a bit more heady so you can look at things more practically rather than get absorbed in what people might be thinking of you and worrying about maybe upsetting people, that then you'll be putting yourself second. I think some of these things which may appear to be not that important are usually the most critical, because your mindset determines your success, in my opinion. So that's one part of about 20 things. The second part that I can think of, which I think really, really does help you determine how to manage your affairs or work with them, is understanding the person you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Or yourself. So when we're looking at what people's issues are, we never really look at the business as much as we look at the person first.
Yeah.
So our motto is put the person before their business.
Yeah.
And if the person's head is screwed on correctly in the right direction, doing the right thing in the right way, the right process with the right people, with the right planning, then success is pretty much guaranteed.
Yes.
Okay, so that's my second nugget, I would say.
Yeah.
Third nugget, I would say, is something called personality profiles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? So if you understand the type of people you're dealing with in terms of their profile, that will determine your success in terms of how you manage them. So it's all about how you manage 4 simple personality types. One is called a supporter, one's called director, one's called thinker, one's called entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Supporter is somebody who's very, very sweet, good-natured. They're very affable. They want to be liked by everybody, and they tend to be quite indirect, people pleasers. The second profile would be, let's say, an entertainer, somebody who, everything's a joke, and they never take anything seriously, but they're sort of the life of the party. So if you go into a room, they'll light up the room. They tend to be typical, like estate agents or people that are very good at connecting with people, but they're very much about the here and now.
Classic salesperson profile.
That's right. Then thirdly would be somebody who's very direct, but very results focused and means business, and they don't hold any hostages. They just want the job done. So anybody who's in a leader's position can normally cut through the BS and get to the point. They won't really mess about. So that type of profile usually tends to be very successful in business because they're usually very focused and results driven. They won't give up until they achieve their result in that one day even. And the fourth profile is a thinker profile, somebody who's very, very, like a physicist or somebody who sits at the back of the room, thinks things through before they do anything. So they almost get stuck in procrastination sometimes because they just overthink everything. I call it analysis by paralysis.
Those kind of people, they tend to be the people who are there in the background.
Probably like a laboratory technician, that sort of profile. They don't always want to go out there. They actually enjoy their own company. Now, why is it these 4 personalities profiles important in business? It's because when you meet these profiles, you need to be able to know what style of working will actually work with them, because you'll definitely come across all these 4 personalities, definitely in a relationship, in business, in sort of daily interactions with new acquaintances. You really have to have an ability to manage those styles. And the people that I find that are most successful are the ones which are chameleons around these type of profiles. They understand how to help these people to achieve their objectives and also achieve their own. So those are my 3, I would say, amazing golden nuggets.
Lovely, that's great. That's really interesting. And of course, I'm quite familiar with a lot of different personality profiling types, and there are a few out there, but I love that. That's really great. So just to wrap up, Laki, because we're coming to the end of the podcast, it's a question that I like to ask most of my guests, which is about how you like to start and end your day. So I know that you've talked about your meditation, so love to hear a bit more about that.
Okay, to be very honest about it, I think everybody is a bit lazy when they're at home, I think. So what I may say and what I do is not always completely transparent as much as I'd like to be. So
same for everyone. We're only human, aren't we?
Exactly. So my intention, which I've managed to keep, I did actually put on a little Facebook or a LinkedIn about 2 weeks ago. I'd said that I'm going to be doing 10 minutes of meditation every day. So what I've been doing is I have been successful in doing that, but during the week. On the weekend, somehow I don't, for some reason.
You give yourself a rest.
I actually sometimes don't do it. But I think it's really, really helped in keeping myself grounded. Shall I say, I also do a little exercise where you get your hands and you stick them above your head. Pull up your arms and you smile. Apparently that's meant to be really good for your back. It releases certain chemicals into your body which actually makes you more alive. If you did that 2-3 times a day, that's really good for you. So I try and do that. I manage to do it about 3 or 4 times in a week. Maybe.
Yeah.
So that's number one tip. Okay, another strange tip. I tend to do some mouth exercises, which are very good for your vocal cords,
Right.
and they're very good for improving your communication with people, because we all have a very lazy communication, I think, because
Yeah.
we may actually, unless you're naturally advanced in your communication, which quite a few people in the city are, but if you're not necessarily a very good orator, I tend to do this exercise in the morning, which is almost like you're doing a kiss, and
Yeah.
you're smiling, and do that 10 times.
Okay.
Just do
But
the
at the
mouth.
same time.
No, you just do the kiss first,
Okay.
and then you do a false smile, big cheesy smile, grin.
I'm just trying it.
Do that 10 times.
Okay.
Now, then what you do is you do what cows do, which is like they do a cud. They sort of like cutting grass. They sort of like churn their bottom jaw around in a circular clockwise motion. So do that 10 times and do it both ways. That loosens up the jaw. Believe it or not, I actually did a presentation on this once for 2 hours at work. So then the third is to just massage your cheeks. Then push down with your tongue, and that actually pushes down on the fat that you get under your chin. You just push up with your hand underneath. That actually helps you to reduce the double chin that some you get because it's a lack of use of that bit. So do that about 10 times. Then open up your mouth as far as you can. So drop your jaw as far as you can 10 times. I did do some of these exercises before my interview, by the way, but it's my little secret. Now first time I've actually brought it out on social media so that it could actually go viral. All these things will help to loosen up the jaw. You notice even now my voice is a lot clearer.
Yes.
Okay. So then there's another one, which is doing 5 minutes of exercise. That also helps with your frame in terms of your diaphragm. So you should actually, when you stand up, you touch your toes. Do that 3 times. But sort of hold it down when you're going down, when you're touching your toes, just hold it there for about 5 seconds. That loosens the diaphragm. So that's another one. And then there's something called the teapot, where you just make this noise where you're actually pushing out really fast as you can with air, but you're making a teapot noise that will help you to loosen up your diaphragm as well before you speak. So that's a really good one for loosening up your diaphragm.
Okay.
And then to top it all up is to do 2 more things, and last one is going to be the most exciting one, but the one before the last one is where you shout as loud as you can. You say, King Kong Ding Dong Ping Pong, King Kong Ding Dong Ping Pong. Yeah.
Okay.
That's quite good for pushing your voice out there and testing it, how far it goes in the room. Yeah.
Okay.
And the last one is you go to the mirror, you say, I'm a tiger. I'm a tiger. Yeah, like that. But you got to say it properly, and you got to probably put your hands up and like a winner. So I had to do a presentation to about 20 people in our IT team in Deloitte when I used to manage the global web presence at Deloitte. And that's one of my presentations, and how to be more effective as a speaker.
Right. That's really, really interesting. And those are great tips. Thank you, Lucky. What about the evening? What do you do in the evening?
All right. I thought I got away with it.
Just anything. Just give us a simple, typical evening for you.
Because I'm very people-y during the day. I'm actually completely non-people-y. To be honest, you probably notice I probably always answer the phone all the time anyway.
Yeah.
But I actually put the phone away and only go back to it maybe a couple of times in the evening just to check if anything urgent's come in, or I not missed an urgent call, but I leave it on silent.
Yeah.
Then I usually try to watch the stuff what I don't really like to watch in some ways.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, because my profile, I think I'm a bit more of a supporter stroke entertainer, and I'm also tiny bit thinker, but I'm not really like a very strong, direct, forceful type of guy. But I'm not so much of a technical guy either. So what I do is I try to polish up on understanding and learning things which are weird and wonderful. So I watch a lot of wildlife programs, watch anything that's sort of technical, maybe about history. So anything that's educational.
Yeah.
So try to do that. I'm successful in my knowledge and my love for what I do.
Yes.
But I don't really have any real regard for major money as being my love anyway. So that's probably what distinguishes the way I work compared to
It
anybody
takes a
else.
certain type, doesn't it?
Exactly.
It takes a certain type and a certain drive, to be like that. And again, it's all to do with values. If you prioritize making money over everything else, then you will make money. Want to make a lot of money, then you will make a lot of money if that's absolutely top of your values and if that's what you prioritize. If you want to have a different type of life and your values are slightly different, then it doesn't mean that you can't be successful, but you might not be mega wealthy, right?
Exactly. I mean, I did quite a simple calculation the other day, and I realized I only need about 10, 20 grand a year to survive.
Right.
Anything more than that is going to be somewhat exuberant. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to be looking to make a lot of money. A lot of that money can actually be put towards good use, toward humanitarian causes.
Yes. Yes.
To be honest, I'm very excited about making money. And I'm very excited about making money for value-based reasons.
Yeah.
I think anything aside from that is a distraction because it's all to do with materialism, and it's quite a difficult thing to get away from. Luckily, I come from a very sort of simple, humble family. My parents are very much into charity and religion. In fact, I'd like to mention my father, Teja Singh Mangat, who's set up 2 charities.
Yes.
I'm very actually proud to be his son. So wherever I go, everybody sort of knows me in the Sikh community anyway, because of his very, very good name and the charity work he does.
Very, very meaningful.
So those charities called the Sikh Missionary Society, I'll do a bit of a plug for them.
Yes.
Which is an educational charity that provides education, but also there's quite a large contribution to the poor and needy in India. He also runs another one, quite a well-known writer on the Anglo-Sikh Wars, Amarpal Sidhu, and that's in India and Punjab, and they help people with eye operations and limbs, and they also run a community centre where they take in children who've been abused or they're put into drugs, and they take them off the street and put them back to normality again. So very happy to actually be doing Seva with my father in terms of helping with those sort of charities. So if anybody wants to make a contribution, more than happy to talk and set up a direct debit like they do with a lot of charities now.
That's really lovely. Well, Lucky, thank you so much for being our guest today. It's just been so amazing to hear your story, to hear about your work, to hear about your, humanitarian interests, just everything. It's been a great interview. Thank you very, very much for joining us.
Well, thank you. And if there's anything I can do to make everybody be smart and their connections out there, then I'm always very happy to help.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Lucky. Goodbye for now.
Bye. Thank you, Jane.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Connector podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not head over to janebaylor.com and order a copy of my free report on building your personal brand. I'd love to connect with you on social media. And finally, don't forget to like and subscribe to my podcast so that you never miss a show. Thanks for listening in, and see you soon.